The Socratic Method. Who knows what the Socratic Method is? Who could handle the pressure of the Socratic Method? Who's got caught? This guy. From getting called on.
I was there.
And Rich can tell a story, but before we jump into the, tales of
woe.
Yeah, tales of woe. The Socratic Method is a process where you're supposed to prepare for class, and the professor of that class literally calls on you. And in law school, or in most law schools, you have to stand up and you have to address the court. You have to address the class almost as if you're addressing a judge or a court. It prepares you for public speaking. It definitely sends some chills down your spine, especially if you're not a public speaker. Everybody in law school should learn the importance of public speaking, especially if you're going to be a litigator in or out of court. But the reality of it is, even if you're not a litigator, you have to understand how to speak to your clients, how to speak to adversary, and really how to get the point across with regard to what the law is and what the matter is at hand. So in this situation, Rich, I'll let you tell a story, but let's just say I was not prepared for the Socratic Method. Foot and mouth, to say the least, right?
100%. So I was there, and I'll never forget this story. This is the best. Professor Jonathan, that's it.
That guy should have never been a professor.
He was great.
Legal writing professor teaching civil procedure. Anyway, I'm not going to talk bad, but anyway.
Whatever. So he calls on a case, and the case is about an accident and whether there's long-arm jurisdiction, and the person in the hospital is a male, and Josh gets called right out of the blue. Tell me about the case, Mr. Cittadino, about this case. And he goes, yeah, so the case is about some girl, she died, and because I can't hold back, and obviously you see the dynamic on camera, and I'm sure if this is not your first video you're watching, you know the dynamic. I bust out laughing my chops off in the middle of class. It is so funny. And because I also read the case, Professor Johnson, I'll take it over. Because
that's on brand right there.
Yep.
Kick me when I'm down. Salt and lemon juice in the wound. Oh, I'm brown-nosed Richie.
Well, maybe he was taking the pressure off. Maybe he was taking the spotlight off.
That was not it.
Maybe, no.
I think Rich started off with, well, Professor Jonathan, someone who actually read the case can answer this question.
Sounds probably right.
That sounds right.
I'm bleeding on the floor. I'm embarrassed. There's 75 people in the classroom. I obviously just completely try to make something up.
So another story, and I don't want to tell the story. I'm going to punt it back to Josh. Josh, what was your first impression of me in law school? How did we meet?
And has it changed much since?
No, it has not changed. Again, New York boy, living in Florida, about to turn my life around. In law school,
world's most violent.
Right?
You can't hear this.
I have a professional bag with my computer in. I'm wearing a collared shirt. I feel like this is the way you should be showing up to law school as a professional. Richie, bag of balls over here, shows up with an unzipped, matching velour jumpsuit with a I don't want to use the word undershirt.
An Italian undershirt.
An Italian undershirt. Everybody understands what that is. And he's holding a gym bag in one hand and a giant 1-gallon jug of water in the other hand. Walking in like he's about to be on an episode of The Sopranos, thinking that this is another day.
Well, they say you can't drink Florida water, so I may try enough water for that day.
This was not.
Who says that?
Yeah, they say it's
Is that a thing? That's really a thing?
Don't
you don't
drink
drink
Florida water.
water.
Horrifying.
Jeez.
It's like Mexico.
Yeah, almost. But essentially, Richie thought he was back in Staten Island in a Goodfellas shot, and I look at this kid and I said, who the hell is this guy? Immediate beef. Ended up being a loving long-term relationship, as we can see now. But you grow to like your enemies, I guess. That keep your enemies close. That's what it is. And now he's very close.
And another good story I have two stories, but I don't want to hog it up. I'll come back. Josh, tell us one story about you. Actually, I'll tell one story and then we'll punt it back to you.
Yeah.
This is an enjoying one. So
Perception of professionals and Socratic Method. 2 stories.
So here's one story since we're talking about the dressing of me. We have property class one day, and I would come in right about on time or whatever. So me and one other person would come in. We try to beat each other for whoever was first before we didn't want to be the last. So anyway, I come in, and our property professor is a big Green Bay Packer fan, and so am I.
This is when you were a front runner.
I was
Still is a front runner.
Still a front runner.
So
yeah.
I come into class, and this day Green Bay must have
in the
going
playoffs.
into the playoffs or something, and they won. So I come in my Green Bay jersey. I actually own a cheesehead, so I had the cheesehead on, and I had a nice
Guys, this is law school.
He's a Cowboys fan.
a nice
yeah.
chain Green Bay thing that I got from Lambeau Field. It's awesome, so I wore it, and Laughing McGee next to me over here.
The ragging began.
The ragging.
Richie actually thought that he was going to get brownie points on tests and grades if he supported the same football team as the professor. That's not how
The professor loves me still to this day. Just want to throw that out.
I don't. Have you talked to that guy?
And once in a while, he wishes us congratulations and stuff.
Listen, the way that, and I don't know how it was in your law school. Your law school was completely different than our law school experience.
It was a little different, yep.
Yeah. So the way that things work, it's called the bell curve in law school. For those that don't know what a bell curve is that there's a certain group of people that are mandatory going to get a certain grade. And it's whether you fall in within certain brackets, right? If the test is out of 100 and you get between a 65 and a 75, you're guaranteed a C, C minus, C plus, whatever the case may be. And if you're between a 75 and an 85, you're guaranteed a B. Now, it's not just, it sounds typical, but in these situations in law school, some law schools are pass-fail, right? Whether you did the work and you get a P, or you did the work, you didn't do the work and you get an F. In our law school, the bell curve was a C curve. Now, I don't know if that was a strategic thing for them. I think that this is going to bring up serious legal issues down the road, is that once you went to our law school, they didn't want you to have the ability to transfer.
Yep.
So if you're on a C curve,
your grades are lower.
That means that out of the 100 kids in the class, 75 of them are getting C's no matter what. A small portion are getting D's and F's and failing, and then only a small portion are getting B's and A's.
How about you lose your scholarship?
Or you lose a scholarship, right?
I lost my scholarship.
Yeah, you lost. Well, so a lot.
Shocking.
Yeah.
No, it's because of the curve.
But a lot of law schools are on the
Wasn't
B
big.
curve, which again, if you're going to present yourself as a professional after law school, and everybody looks at your GPA, right? Everybody shows
which they do. Your first job. First job. They
Dean's
look at your GPA.
list, president's list, right? Oh, I was blah blah blah. I have this little tassel on my head. If you were at a certain law school, you got a B curve. Everybody gets a 3.0. Right. You look great. Right, coming out of law school. Coming out of our law school, I mean, we still made out well and survived, and that's what you have to do.
I was student. I was a student senator for. I was student of the month.
Yeah.
I started the golf club. I
Which
did a
month?
lot for that.
Which month?
Every month.
The shortest month.
February.
But regardless of it, law schools are different for everybody. Everybody's got different experiences. In our situation, I got to meet this fine gentleman right here. Josh, let's hear about your law school, because it seems like you had a different experience than what Richie and I experienced in Florida.
I definitely had a bit of a different experience, and I'm at a bit of a disadvantage. None of my buddies that went to law school
Professionals,
are
I'm sure.
at this table at the moment. I don't even know what curve we had, or if we had a curve. I don't know.
You were above the curve.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
I think one
like
funny
nerdy,
thing.
Like nerdy above the curve? Or?
Well, you're in law school, so you're nerdy is good in law school.
Yeah, you have to. Yeah, you have to be a nerdy. I wasn't nerdy. No,
Nerdy is the goal in law
I was a
school.
great
No,
student.
me. So we started as night students actually.
You guys had it easier.
Yeah, well, no.
That's
Because we
false.
also had to go through the summer in order to get onto the day program. But we had a bunch of kids, and we were all sort of the same mindset, and we all just sort of hung out together and studied together.
Study groups?
Yeah, we had study groups. So we had.
Did anybody ever throw water on your computer to make sure you
No,
failed?
but we definitely changed. We changed everyone's, like, if you left your computer unlocked at the library, there was a website, lemonparty.com. I don't know if anyone remembers that. So you would change people's home pages to that. So when they brought it up in class, that's what would come up.
Oh Lord, videos, sounds.
Yeah. You should look at it. I think you'd enjoy it. You should take a look. But one of the things about my law school, I mean, we had some really good professors, some really professional. I mean, we had Scalia, I believe, was an adjunct at one point.
For us too.
I mean, really. I mean, just really.
I'm proud your school was at
no.
par
Listen.
with us.
Listen. You and I have differing political opinions, but I can appreciate and respect a great legal mind. Period.
100%.
Period. Full stop. But we had some not so good professors.
Yeah.
So we had to take tax. Our dean was a tax guy. So not every law school requires you to take tax law, but ours did, because our dean, who is now Dean Hobbs, he was the former AD, maybe still the AD at Rutgers now. I'm not sure. But we had tax. And one of our buddies was a former accountant. I don't know why he stopped being an accountant to become a lawyer. That was a really dumb decision. I speak to him to this day, and he agrees it was a dumb decision. So to just stay being an accountant. But we had a professor, and she wore 80s pantsuits, like pastel colors all the time, and you could smell the booze like 5-6
crazy.
rows up.
Yeah, teacher like
She was a sweetheart. I mean, we loved her, but she literally didn't teach us a freaking thing. So my buddy, who was the former accountant, we literally crammed for that final.
Yeah.
For 2 days, we sat in we actually took over like a classroom that wasn't being used. And we crammed for 2 days. He taught us tax law, and we all got B's or above.
Wow!
And we all would have failed.
Taught by an accountant.
Taught by an accountant who was also a student. Yeah, I mean those are my crazy classroom experiences.
What about Socratic Method? Do you ever get called on?
All the time. All the time.
What was it like to
typically
get
not
called on?
unprepared though. I was pretty prepared in law school.
sense.
Most of my friends were. I loved con law. Con law was my favorite. Shout out to Ronald Riccio.
How big were your classrooms? Our common law classroom was huge.
We probably had 30 or 40 in there.
I think our common law classroom was like 150 kids.
Like maybe 50, but not a ton. None of our classes were like hundreds. None of them were. But we were very big on free speech. Me and my friends, we were like the free speech guys, right? And whether some of my friends leaned right or some of them leaned left.
Dead Poets Society.
Right. Yeah, we all. It was very much a Dead Poets type of. With the professor and if there was a First Amendment thing coming up, that we'd call on us to have the debate about it, do the Socratic Method about it, and talk about those types of cases.
So in my con law class, we were talking about a case, and whatever the case was, we were talking about fruit of the poisonous tree and whether the evidence should be admissible based on state for whatever had occurred in that case. And so the different students would start arguing different positions. I argued my position, and the professor goes, "Well, we know who the prosecutor in the room is going to be."
Yeah, I think we knew a lot of the kids in certain classes. Whether or not they actually ended up practicing that type of law changes things around. But I certainly didn't have. I don't think any classrooms where I was like, "Oh, I know I'm going to be a criminal lawyer." Maybe sports law is what my goal was at some point, but
we do a little bit of that. You do.
We absolutely do. I mean, that did
chasing the dreams.
That did pan out. Listen, I mean,
how about our torts class that one time with one of the students starts vaping in the middle of the classroom? And that's the same professor that you're talking about, the pastel colored thing. That's exactly the same lady that would be in our school. Same exact thing.
No, but anyway, sorry.
Well, we did not. We waited till after class to do things. Yeah.
Yeah. No, listen. War stories in law school were crazy. I know you mentioned something about like putting something up on computers. We used to hear things all the time about, oops, the water spilled on the keyboard and they couldn't get their final done. It was because people were so competitive about fighting for that 1A in the class.
Because of the curve,
Because of the curve. Or if you were in law review, right, that means you were like really top notch of your class. Law review, you would write journals and memos for whatever, or go argue. What was the team that the trial team that everybody was on? Mock trial. That was another thing that if you wanted to be a litigator, you joined the mock trial team and you had to audition. You had to pretty much fight for a spot. But great experience in law school because it actually taught you how to argue your points in a legal way, which is way more practical, I feel, than other things in law school. And law school teaches you a lot of antiquated common law, case law, which has no place in today's society. But that's.
Did you travel abroad with your law school?
We could have, but no, I didn't. Listen, I was married.
Married.
That's right.
Where am I going?
Yeah, that's right.
Where am I going?
He sacrificed life.
I was a child husband.
That's child. That's scary.
I think that was one of the best times was studying abroad.
If you're going to law school,
study abroad.
Well, that too, but send us some questions. Happy to give you our experiences. Happy to help direct you. We're a full service practice here, so if you like wills and trusts, or if you like real estate or family law, it's good to start to work in a full or a multifaceted law firm because you might get kicked around to different departments and you might find your niche. Ultimately, I talk to the young lawyers that we hire here, and what I really like to talk to them about is how to develop clients and how to actually build your own book of business, because that's an invaluable skill and it's really more sales, right? Are you that bookworm, nerdy type of law student or a lawyer that sits in the back and types memos? Now, if that's what you like, then that's great. But if you're somebody that has the gift of gab, you know, like Richie here, right? And you're good at sales. Well, guess what? If you could build your book of business, well, that's extremely invaluable at the law firms you go to.
Yeah.
Maybe not important at the big law firms, at the white shoe firms in the city.
Yeah, it depends on the role.
But I know I was at a big firm in the city, and I used to get these clients. They would get swallowed up by the partners that were there for 40 years. But I realized, wow, the white shoe firms, it's much harder to build your book of business than at a smaller, mid-sized law firm like ours, where it doesn't matter if I get a real estate closing or divorce, a wills, a trust, I potentially could get a commission. Wow, that's really incentivizing as a young lawyer, especially if you come out of school and the job offers you get, you know, aren't the numbers that you think you deserve. Everybody wants to come out of law school and make $1 million a year. Well, get in line. Yeah, exactly. Nobody gives money away, right? So if you're coming out of law school, understand what your goals are, understand what kind of practice you think you could excel at, and then also speak to businessmen and women in your industries and figure out, how do I excel in this market? You know, you have friends and family that are in the real estate industry. Well, guess what? Real estate law is great. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? You have a lot of friends that, I don't know, get divorces, I guess. Okay, you know, that might be a unique area. But you know, the three of us, we also join different groups and associations. Monmouth County, Monmouth County Bar Association we're part of. Yeah. We're part of Young Lawyers Associations. You got to get involved in your local community, and you got to work on referrals and connecting with local businessmen and women, because that's really how you build your book of business. Anyway, tune in. Let us know your war stories. Let us know if you have any legal questions. If you want to hear more funny stories about our experiences, give us a shout.
There's plenty.
Yeah, there is plenty.